Hello, Sharna Wilson here. This is my second YouTube video, which is going to be in response to Kane's video, a classmate of mine whom I sit next to. And his video is entitled "Thoughts on Internet Asperger Syndrome and Portrayal of Oneself as an Object." And in this video, Kane presents an article entitled "We Live in Public and the End of Empathy," in which the author denotes or coins a term, Internet Asperger Syndrome, which, if you're familiar with Asperger Syndrome, Kane kind of talks about a little bit, and he says the Asperger's patient cannot pick up on body language and cues, and this kind of is similar, or what we often do on Facebook, where we turn someone into an object and no longer are aware of their feelings and, or how they may respond to certain comments we say on Facebook or any social media or networking website. And he gives an example of how people can say cruel things on the internet with Rebecca Black's video Friday, and how nationally, or the whole nation kind of didn't really like Rebecca Black's song, and people went on the YouTube video, and said some mean things about her. And I kind of want to talk about some other instances, some other examples I have seen on social media networking websites, and the whole phenomena of internet bullying that I have personally encountered, and how there are also examples of people turning others into objects. And I also want to tie in some ideas that we're actually discussing in another class of mine, my religion class, on the idea of subject versus object and animality versus humanity. And the first example I want to talk about with myself is, it happened or occurred earlier this year. And first I'm going to start off by saying that I've become more of an avid Twitter user than a Facebook user, so my examples will derive mostly from Twitter. And this example in particular involves a couple of associates of mine at Carolina, and it involved the trendy topic pound or hashtag UNC cat stacks. Now, I'm not really familiar with who is Cat Stacks originally, but I can infer that, or what I've heard, that she's some type of, porn star or a promiscuous female out there in pop culture world, who I'm not familiar with, as I'm not familiar with a lot of pop culture. But with UNC Cat Stacks, a couple of friends or associates of mine, sad to say, kind of made a mockery out of a female here, a freshman at Carolina, who, to put it mildly, was considered promiscuous. And she slept with an undisclosed, I'm not really sure, amount of people, and these guys felt the need to tweet about her and say kind of harsh, mean things that they wouldn't say to her face. They kind of said on Twitter, pound UNC has Cat Stacks slept with so-and-so, and kind of aired her dirty laundry on Twitter. I can't find any of these tweets because they deleted them, and they were a few months ago. It would be too exhausting to find them. But they kind of are an example of how they turned this, female, who arguably is exploring her sexuality, into a promiscuous female or promiscuous person who doesn't deserve an ounce of respect from her, fellow peers. And the drama or the internet bullying reached an all-time high, where people were wondering, who is UNC Cat Stacks? People kept asking, who's Cat Stacks, and it became like almost a game, almost a, something that other people participated in, whether or not they meant to or not. People participated in it, that they wondered who UNC Cat Stacks was, and no one, even tried to stop these males from bashing this female, who no one knows how she was taking it, because they can't see her physical demeanor, or, like Kane says in the article, the body language cues, much like Asperger syndrome patients can't see those same cues either. And it kind of unfolded. Her roommate ended up tagging her in a status on Facebook, airing all her dirty laundry about how she was sexed and who the person she sexed her for. And it kind of unraveled into this beast, that so much so that it was almost unbearable for the girl to even, stay at the university. And currently she is no longer here, sad to say, and it has transferred to another school. And I've also seen other instances of female on female, bashing on Twitter. People tagging or tweeting other girls that don't go to the school, talking about how they're, saying mean things like H word and B word and all this kind of stuff on Twitter. Well, yet I don't think people would turn this internet bullying into a physical altercation. There has been little, or I'm not that I'm aware of, maybe in the high school level, but on the college level, of people, turning this internet bullying into a physical altercation, which only shows how people will further continue to make people on the internet objects and not really carry it outside of the internet world. And I want to relate this to something I'm actually talking about in one of my other classes. We constantly, in my religion studies class, constantly talk about the role of subject versus object in the human world. And we are discussing currently, and have discussed throughout the semester, George Bataille in his book Theory of Religion, where he discusses object versus subject in the world of animality versus the world of humanity. And first, he coined the term animality, and I'm not really sure if anyone is familiar with it, so I'll give you, a brief background on what animality is exactly. And in the world of animality, he states, is humans are our most primitive state, and there's no subordination, no subject-object premise. And Bataille states, an animal life is nothing but an empty intoxication limited by terror, suffering, and death. So, in contrast, the world of humanity is all about subject-object distinction. And in his book, he gives the term, he says objects are tools. And so, with an object being a tool, we modify tools as we please, and it helps us look ahead. So the tool has no value except what is given to it, and additionally the tool is matter to which there is no life except the values placed in it. And this kind of goes along with something Kane stated about how your virtual self is not seen as an actual person, but people view you as an object, just as an avatar with a name. And this, people on Facebook and Twitter almost become tools to our, we can use to our advantage or disadvantage. We can shape and mold them into people who we value, our friends, or people who we don't value, total strangers, or people who we've only heard about through social networking websites. And it's easier as humans to make someone an object, and we have become a type of, structure where we are used to making things objects is what we do. Like, we make knives an object, we make our glasses an object. Now we've almost even succumbed to people on Facebook who we aren't familiar with. They have become objects we can use them to our cruelty, for our own humor, for our own satisfaction, despite the fact that they all bleed, despite the fact that they all have feelings much like we do. And Bataille states that we need to, or us as humans, we need to work towards becoming more of our animal state, or retract to animality at our primitive state, where we no longer have these distinctions, where we no longer make cows or cattle our objects versus or like how we make people objects on Twitter or Facebook. We should retract to a primitive state where we are all equals, where there are no subordination, and there are no false premises. This is going to be kind of difficult considering we have the internet now, we have TV, we have all these technologies which we kind of use in our day-to-day life. Reverting back to an animal state is almost near impossible as where we are in this day and time. But it's just interesting to think about and compare it from a religious aspect to Facebook and Twitter and YouTube land that we have all become so familiar with, and it's just almost conditioned into us. So those are my thoughts on Kane's video. Below I have posted a link to more about George Bataille and in his book Theory of Religion, which you can probably pick up at the library. It's kind of a hard read, but if you can dissect it, interesting nonetheless. And I'll also post a link to Kane's original video in the bottom. See you on class.